to the lab again. Oh no, back to the lab again. We messed up. Back to the lab again.
Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for the overwhelming support in the input shortcuts video. I wanted to go over some commonly asked questions in the comment section of that video. Before we start, I wanted to preface that there is a reason that I prefer to refer to these tricks as alternative inputs rather than input shortcuts, and here's why. A dragon punch requires 3 directional inputs plus a button press. That is forward, down, then down forward, plus the button. Its alternative input requires 6 directional inputs plus a button. That is forward, down, down back, back, forward again, plus the button. Now, that doesn't sound like much of a shortcut, does it? Well, think of it like this. The only time using an alternative input becomes a shortcut is when it is being used to cancel into a super. In that case, then it is technically the super input that is getting a shortcut, because you are no longer having to execute the entirety of the motion. And here's an example. Looks crispy and clean, back on the scene. Okay guys, I really do hope that breaking down the alternative inputs into its constituent parts and explaining how it works will allow you to apply this concept to other situations and other characters. Anyway, on to the viewer questions. So Ryo Mitsui 000 asks, any shortcuts for double half circle supers or motions, say like Shermie super? So unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately because the game is what it is, there is no shortcuts for the Shermie Carnival. No, you are going to have to input that in its entirety. Now, you're probably not going to be trying to do that raw very often. At least I wouldn't think you would be. What you're going to want to end up trying to do with Shermie is if you're doing this, which leaves him airborne, what you can do is, okay, and then whilst that super is going on, the double forward kick super, then you're going to want to do a max cancel of the Shermie Carnival, which requires both buttons. You don't need to be in max mode. Remember, you don't need to be in max mode to activate the max version of the Shermie Carnival. What it is, it's essentially the EX version of the super, or we could call it a level 2, just for the sake of simplicity. So we're going to go into her regular command throw, Shermie whip, into her Shermie shock, just the regular version. So we're just going to press a kick. And then while that's going on, you have plenty of time to execute the half circle forward punch. And in this case, it's going to be both punches since we're using the max version of that. Now, one cool thing I did learn about this for this video is whenever you're doing these moves and she switches sides, as long as you time it right, it doesn't matter which direction you do that double quarter circle forward. It doesn't matter at all. As you can see, if I do quarter circle back and then double quarter circle forward kick, I can do it the opposite direction. We'll start on the same side here. I can do it the opposite direction, and I'll do it backwards, which means to the right side of the screen. And it's still going to come out. Okay? And that should be applicable to the remainder of the super going into her level 2. I gotta put it in faster. There's no problem. Bump, 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 bump. There it is. Yeah, you can do it pretty, as soon as she kind of like stops in the midair. You get plenty of time. You just gotta be crispy with it. Just practice. Do it one more time. There it is, yeah. Really clean inputs there too, and that's what you guys should be aiming for. Just so you know, that's what you guys should be aiming for whenever trying to execute these things. Alright, so we are done with the Shermie inputs. On to the next viewer question, and that is Ryan Damon asks, thank you so much, this helped a lot, but do you have one for input motions like Elizabeth quarter circle back into half circle super? I believe you're probably referring to her, this one, which is, this is the same input across the board for the climax special, unless you're talking about quarter circle forward, half circle back. But you said quarter circle back into that. So, as the beginning of this video aimed to explain, there is no actual shortcuts for the super motions themselves. The shortcuts come from using an alternative input to cancel into the supers, just to reiterate on that. But I will do my best to give you an example here. So, okay, so this is her DP motion. Trying to cancel this into her quarter circle back, half circle forward, into her climax. Not exactly the easiest thing to do consistently, especially for beginners. So, just like the Hydern example, and this same example can be applied to literally any character that has a DP motion that can be canceled into a climax special. We're going to do the same exact input, or alternative input, which is instead of the DP motion, we're going to do the half circle back, forward, as such. And since we've already done half, or even more than half of the climax super special input, which is quarter circle back, half circle forward, we're only going to have to input a quarter circle forward motion. So let's do that right now. And oh, I forgot I had to press the 2 buttons. There you go. A little bit of the buttonhole trick. And as you can see, half circle back, forward. I have a little bit of a input nuance that I do where I kind of don't do the quarter circle forward perfectly. I kind of rotate back a little bit, but that's a great way to showcase the input leniency of this game. All right, so Ryan Damon, hopefully that helped you out there. If you were talking about, let's just go over this to be thorough. If you're talking about the Grand Rafale, or I don't know what that is, but if you're talking about that second super there, canceling into that, once again, as stated, there is no intrinsic shortcuts for the actual super moves themselves. There are alternative inputs for some of the special moves that allow you to use a shortcut within the super. So sorry to reiterate. Actually, I'm not sorry to reiterate. I'm trying to teach you guys. So just to iterate again, because I believe if you guys understand the inner workings of what's going on here, you could apply it yourself to a bunch of other scenarios. Okay. So let's see. So the coup d'event, let's do the coup d'event into the Grand Raphael, or whatever, Rafale, whatever. So this is cool. Yeah, so there we go. Let me make sure that was the correct super. So it's quarter circle forward, half circle back, right? Yeah. Okay. That is a sick looking move. This is a really good example of input buffering. So you can do the dragon punch motion normally here, except you're just going to turn it into a quarter circle forward. You're going to add that extra forward motion. Because you're doing that, you're already executing the first half of the Grand Rafale. I'm going to call it whatever the hell I want at this point. But you're already executing half of that, so therefore, after you do that special, you're only going to have to do a half circle back. And it will look like this. Let's look at our inputs there. Forward, a little bit sloppy there. Down, down, forward. Because I used that forward motion as part of the Shoryuken motion, I did not have to execute the beginning of the super. As said before, a lot of these can be done manually. I hate calling these tricks because the game was designed to be played like this. They're not tricks. You know, the game was designed around this input buffer philosophy, basically. All right. So that's also a great example of a time that you don't want to use the alternative input. Another example of a time you wouldn't want to use it was whenever you're trying to use this as an anti-air. Why spend all the time inputting half circle back forward if you want it instantly? They're meant to be used in combos. All right. Anyway, hopefully that helped you out, Ryan Damon. Hope that helped you out. All right. Eric Vu asks, can you give me number motion inputs for Terry's rising tackle canceled into Power Geyser? Good question. I do believe I already answered you in the comments section, so that's there for everybody's educational purposes. For those of you who don't know what the number pad notation is, you have each of your 9 directions, including neutral, corresponds to a number on the keypad. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is neutral when you're not touching the stick. Here, I'll actually show you on the screen here. 1, 2, 3, 4, neutral, nothing. 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. It's a really good notation to use because numbers are universal, and there's no language barrier there. Okay, so for his rising tackle canceled into power geyser, his rising tackle, if I'm not mistaken, is his DP motion, and his let's see, is this power? Yeah, that's power geyser. So this is literally the same exact example of Hydern, and now I've done Elizabeth, canceling into her her climax special or climax super. So, but if you want the numbers, it will be. So we're going to do the alternative input, which is 6, 3, 2, 1, 4, 6. That's the, so 6, 3, 2, 1, 4, 6, and that's going to give us this. Okay, if I can get it right. Okay, and since that's the alternative input and it's using up half of the inputs for the super that in which we are trying to cancel into, we will only have to do a simple quarter circle forward motion to get the cancel into the super. So, and that, as we all know, is 2, 3, 6. So, boom. You know, if you do it raw, you're going to get that. But if you're canceling it, boom. There you go. Are you good? Boom. Boom. Okay. So, on the left side of the screen, you can see half circle back forward, really clean with the punch. And then I like, once again, I do half circle forwards a lot for quarter circle motion. You don't need to do that. You only need to execute the quarter circle forward motion at the top of the screen there. So hopefully that clears up your answer or your question. And I did post in the comment section as well, so that way everybody help each other out. Okay, now the last question that seemed pertinent is Epiphany. He asks, how do I do the Z motion on the arcade stick? Any shortcuts? Okay, and I did try answering him via the comments, but I think we had a little bit of a miscommunication, so let's clear that up. Okay, so the Z motion is what we've been doing here. This entire video is the Shoryuken, or also known as the DP, Dragon Punch motion. It's forward, down, down, forward. Is there any shortcuts to that? No. No. If you're wanting to do that, you just simply have to know how to do that. To follow up, you did mention that you know how to do quarter circle forward motions pretty easily. You don't have too big of a problem with that. So the best way that I think another viewer also, or a commenter tried to explain, is a really good way to learn how to do DPs. A good way to start is you try to imagine it like you're doing a quarter circle forward, but you're tapping forward first. So it's basically tapping forward before you do a Hadoken or a quarter circle forward motion. So you tap forward and then you do it. Now, if you do it quickly enough, you're going to get the DP motion. Even though I've done, you can see I tap forward for 8 frames at the top of the screen there on the left side. There was 2 frames in neutral. And then I went from 4, I did down for 4 frames, diagonally down, or down forward for 5 frames. Now that, you could stop right there. That's where you can stop. That's where you normally would stop for the DP motion. But if you add that forward motion with the punch, it's not going to change anything. This actually leads into a problem sometimes whenever you're going from a dash into trying to do you go from a dash and you're trying to do a, let's say his crack shoot. I think that's what it's called, his crack shoot. If you're going from a dash into it, you're not going to get it unless you wait a second. You know what I mean? Because it's going to read that as a DP motion. So I know the screen shows it as a Z, but what you need to understand, it's not a Z. It's not, I mean, you can try to make the Z motion with the stick, but don't let that confuse you. It's really just as simple as 3 inputs, which is forward, down, down, forward. So it does slightly make a Z motion if you're down in the lower right-hand corner of your stick's gate. You know, it kind of does make a little Z motion. But once you understand that you can tap forward and then a quarter circle forward, like I'm showing you here on screen, just practice doing that fast, and you're gonna get a DP. It actually, like I said, it can even be a problem sometimes when you're trying to do things out of a sprint. You know, Once you get a full understanding of what fighting game inputs are, and you break them down into what actual individual inputs they are, things become a lot easier. All right, I think that's all the viewer questions. Hopefully I really think that this should cover the basis for a lot of your guys' questions. And if you watch the entirety of this video and really try to understand, then you should be able to apply this stuff to a lot of different situations. Of course, continue asking questions. We're all here learning together. Even I'm learning. Whenever I was making this video, I learned a lot about a couple characters and their little nuances. So, been having a lot of fun doing this, guys. And I think that I am tired for the night. And if this is received well, we'll do more questions. A lot of you guys are newer, not just to King of Fighters. You're also new to fighting games. And you're helping me learn about your skill level. And there's some things that are super obvious to me, but are not obvious to you guys. And I'm figuring those things out right now. So we'll get through it together. And that's it. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy. And that's it. Y'all have a good night.
Back to the lab again. Oh no, back to the lab again. We messed up. Back to the lab again. Not again. Back to the lab again. Uh-oh.
All right. Y'all motherfuckers better be happy, son. I haven't even got to play King of Fighters yet, motherfuckers. Shit. All right. Cutting the stream.